Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Reimagining Philanthropy plus IT. On today's session, we're focusing on engaging with IDB's new priorities with Jean-Emmanuel Desmornes. And Jean-Emmanuel basically will go into a mini presentation on IDB's new priorities, and we'll be asking a little questions afterwards. So, are you okay with Jean-Emmanuel or Emmanuel?
No, Jean-Emmanuel is fine. Jean-Emmanuel is fine.
Okay. Just, just making sure. If you don't mind, just give us a little presentation, introduction about yourself, and then we can go into the presentation.
Thank you, Debbie, for having me. As you introduced me, I'm Jean-Emmanuel Desmornes. I'm the IDB Lab specialist for supporting private sector, like in the Caribbean, from the division called Ecosystem Building and Acceleration. I've been working for over 12 years now in the development world, with a finance background, also some experience in auditing. And yes, so we really support entrepreneurs, startup ecosystem, the private sector in general, through various different offering, both financial and non-financial. And yes, you'll find out more through the presentation. So I will share my screen. Okay. And let me know if there's any, if there's any bugs. You know, the internet is not always reliable, but hopefully not.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, I'm here representing IDB Lab, the innovation lab of the IDB group. So for those that are not familiar with the IDB group, so IDB group is comprised of three organizations. You have the IDB, which is the most used term or bid if we're talking about French or Spanish countries, where we provide financing and technical assistance to government institutions through sovereign grants or sovereign loans. So the IDB is always is one of the most important partners of governments in Latin America and the Caribbean, supporting public projects, so whether it's public infrastructure, whether it's social public support, more established and big corporations. So they do anything from big infrastructure projects from a corporation. They kind of complement the role that the commercial banks are doing, or investment banks as well are doing in the countries. And then you have IDB Lab, which is also focusing on the private sector, but we work with earlier ventures. So we support founders and startups. We support ecosystem builders. We support VC funds, angel investors. So we're really we complement IDB Invest in a sense that our financing sizes usually are stops where the financing size of IDB Invest starts. I will get to more details on the different instruments and kind of our ticket sizes. But yeah, so when you're thinking about IDB, the IDB group, you have IDB public sector, and then you have the two private arms, which are IDB Invest and IDB Lab. So what is IDB Lab? As I mentioned, we really, our goal is to be an innovation laboratory. What does that mean? That means we are, as the smaller organization from the group, we have a bigger risk appetite. And as a lab, we are here to try new things, really support things that are different, that are innovative, sometimes a little more risky, but and the goal is, how can we come with this catalytic fund to really foster and develop innovation in the entrepreneurship ecosystems, and then that can do a proof of concept, or come with the knowledge and a minimum viable product that can later be on, sorry, be scaled by other institution, whether it's internally that can be scaled by the public sector or later that can be scaled by we invest, but also that can be scaled by any other actors or funding partners moving in the ecosystem. So like I mentioned, we support early stage entrepreneurial innovation ecosystems. We support like investment in R&D for new technologies and how we can also activate new markets and be catalytic for existing markets. So our interventions are along 5 key priority area, what we call thematic agenda. So we have agriculture and nature capital. So we support a lot of new technologies for sustainable agriculture. We also work with to support financial inclusion. So a lot of the fintechs and microfinance institutions, and how can we really help develop financial inclusion, which is a big challenge in Latin America and the Caribbean. Talent and employment. So how can we help upskill the youth? How can we uh, help economies and the private sector and like get ready for this new digital economy world as well. So we have boot camp programs that we support. We support incubators and accelerators that does these advancement in talent and employment in the region. Also, health is also a big thematic area for us, where we see how we can support innovative solution to some key health challenges and financial essential infrastructure. So essential infrastructure is how can we improve access to water, drinkable water? How can we improve access to energy? Things like that will fall under essential infrastructure. One thing that's important to notice, we also have cross vertical areas like um, climate. So climate is a big focus for us. So we always measure the impact on the environment and climate in all our initiatives, and also gender diversity. So that's also something we measure across all our initiatives because these are cross-thematic priorities for IDB Lab. And given that we in the region we're evolving in, there is a huge focus on development goals such as the impact on the poor and vulnerable population in these communities where we are intervening. Um, Yes. So on the next slide, so what do we offer? What's our value proposition? So I know a lot of people focus on the financing part. So yes, we have finances that we give, and we have a wide range of instruments and products that we'll go into more in details. But I like to put the emphasis that that's not the only value proposition for IDB Lab, because we have an extensive knowledge offering as a lab. Again, knowledge is at the core of what we're doing. So since we do things that are innovative and that are new, we really like take the time to really develop knowledge products for these, so that what are the lessons learned from the initiatives? What are the best practices? So we have research papers, we have evaluations for these, we have market studies, and these are extensive knowledge that we make available to all the partners that we're working with. We also have specific kind of knowledge units that are focusing on one thematic and that are offering services to the ecosystem. For example, in AI, we have the Fail Lack initiative, that is a specific unit focusing on AI technologies and that have extensive knowledge and expertise that can provide their services and their support to the ecosystem. We also have the blockchain unit called the LAC chain, also that have extreme expertise and knowledge and experience in developing blockchain systems and solutions. And they offer also their services as a knowledge unit. And finally, the connection, which is the third pillar of our value proposition, is okay. We also have an excessive network of partners, whether it's co-funders, whether it's technical partners, whether it's government entities, policymakers. So our role is to facilitate linkages, is to push for synergies with existing initiatives. So we see value in leveraging our network to support actors in the ecosystem in order to either grow or materialize their proposal, their initiatives. So I think these knowledge and connection offering are extremely important for us. It's not just the financing part. So when we get to the financing, so IDB Lab has two distinct unit. So we have the ecosystem building and innovation unit, which is at the level one, where we are the grant making unit, where we provide grants from 750,000 up to 2 million US dollars, and where we work with the ecosystem builders. So the people that are at the middle of this ecosystem and that are impacting every I don't know, every part of the ecosystem. So if you look at it as a value chain approach, you really have to have like position yourself and showcase that you can have an impact on every phase of the value chain. And that's why, for example, we work with a lot of incubators and accelerators that work with universities and students, but that also work with founders and entrepreneurs, but that also work with public institutions to develop policies that are facilitating the ease of doing business. That also work with the markets, how we can help these founders to access new markets and um, etc. So that's the goal of the ecosystem building and acceleration unit. Then if for companies that are a little more, I would say, like more developed, they like there is the second unit of IDB Lab, which the VDI or the venture capital unit, and they and this unit work with it's a startup that already have a product on the market, already or service on the market already is generating revenue from their initiative. So they were looking at growth startup that we can provide mostly uh, Series A, mostly, and these are, of course, for up to 50 million, but we also have fund.
You were at the page with the tiers 1, 2, and 3 of funding, and you were discussing the organizations that have a product.
Startups. But we also have fund of funds. So, for example, we are developing, we are having a first VC fund for the Caribbean region. Hopefully that can be launched within the next couple of months. So if I drop it again, I guess we'll have to reschedule, eh? uh,
I
and
see
I'm
the
back.
internet today is just playing with you, but you dropped off with the VC funds.
Yeah, I will go back to. I guess that's always like I always drop in VC funds, so they don't want me to cover VC funds. Maybe we skip VC funds, huh? So yeah, so to quick recap. So the VCI unit, like I said, works with a little more developed like fund, like startups. Again, if you're a startup and you only have an idea or you're still in R&D phase, the best opportunities is to go through an incubator or an accelerator program that the tier one is already supporting. So IDB Lab, through the ecosystem building and acceleration unit, we support a lot of incubators and accelerators that are kind of ecosystem builders and that are supporting. Now, if your startup that already have revenue generating activities and already have a product on the market, also offering a service that are generating revenues, there you'll be eligible for tier two financing, either through directly through seed investment, or like I said, direct equity for ticket sizes between 1 million to 3 million, and direct equity are usually Series A or Series Bs, and or VC funds. Like I said, so for the VC funds, it's mostly the funds now will be independently like investing in those companies. But we are trying, as I mentioned before I cut off, we're trying to launch the first or support of VC funds that's focusing specifically for Caribbean countries. Because most of the VC funds we have in Latin America and the Caribbean like focus on the bigger markets in Latin America and the Caribbean, and we want to dedicate more VC financing for Caribbean countries. And finally, we also have loans, and they range from 500K, the smallest ticket, all the way up to the 5 million. And right now, we just launched a call for loans for Caribbean countries as well. Um, so yeah, so we really want to put a focus on helping the Caribbean ecosystem because we know there are smaller countries and smaller island, and there needs to be a dedicated effort to allocate financing for the Caribbean region. And finally, the third tier is not specific to IDB Lab itself, but it's how for all our project, the goal is to see our project scale after our investment.
That is that is unless you want to reconvene, but I think we could proceed. It's just the person who's gonna be editing is gonna kill me for sure.
As I was saying, so tier three is how we can support initiatives to scale after going through either the tier one financing, tier two financing. So we help create those connections and synergies and partnership, like either internally, like I said, with IDB Invest that have much bigger tickets than IDB Lab. So on average, IDB Invest looks at investment of 5 million and up. Of course, there's exceptions for Caribbean countries where they can lower some of those standards and go and consider something that's 2 to 3 million, but they usually go 5 million and up. And that's how I mentioned earlier in the presentation how we complement the offering of IDB Invest. And they go from 5 million to X, right? For example, recently in Trinidad, IDB Invest just closed a deal for 150 million a loan with a company in Trinidad. So they go from 5 million to 100, 200 million invested. They, like I mentioned, they work with big corporations, but we always have open communication with IDB Invest to see how we can collaborate and pass opportunities from one to another, right? And like I mentioned as well, if a company that benefited from us either through tier one or tier two, offering something that's a service or a product that's relevant to the public sector, we can also help facilitate synergies and partnership with the public sector to see how they can scale their solution.
You've mentioned some great datas, but there's two things within this that I would like you to touch on, which is the loan and the venture capital funds. You mentioned that you guys are relaunching most likely in Q2. Do you have the exact date when these opportunities will be available?
So the loans is already open. So there's an open call right now, and at the end of the presentation, I have a link for this, what I can share with you as well, so that you can share with your network. So there is an open loan call application dedicated for Caribbean countries, right? The VC fund is still in the works, so it's not like active yet, but there will be communication as well on this when it's officially launched and effective for the VC fund dedicated to the Caribbean. And for both seed investment and direct equity, actually also the grants for tier one, there are two ways that you can benefit or like from this. The first traditional way is we are a demand-driven organization, right? So entrepreneurs or founders or ecosystem builders, they reach out to us and pitch their initiative, and they go through of course we as a multilateral development organization, we have an extensive evaluation process where we go through all these evaluation process and it's highly competitive, right? Because we receive a lot of demand and we have to filter through because we cannot finance everything, right? And for the VC investment or the loan, there'll probably be call for proposals where it's a specific window where you can go in and for during this call for proposal. The other way to benefit from this investment is, as I mentioned, through we have what we call challenges. So we have specific program that we launch for specific sectors. For example, we've had for years now the Blue Tech for Waste Challenge, which is a dedicated fund that focuses on the blue economy solution, so blue tech solution. And we just closed the call for proposals for the Sargassum Challenge. So the Sargassum Challenge was open to Caribbean countries for solutions related to, we all know if you're in the Caribbean, our beautiful beach is being invaded by sargassum. So how can we use that sargassum and transform it into a more, for the circular economy, into a more productive product? But this has closed. But we also have kind of regional programs like Carib Equity, and the Carib Equity program is supporting the whole innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem in all Caribbean countries. We launched last year in July, that was July 2024, a call for proposal for ESOs, so Entrepreneurship Support Organization, where we selected 10 incubators and accelerators across multiple countries. Now we are in the middle of a procurement process, a competitive procurement process to recruit a service provider that will help us launch more, manage an investment fund that offer seed grants and small ticket like prototype financing for startups. And when those calls for proposals will be up, we will definitely communicate on it. So I always like encourage people to follow IDB Lab and all the communication that we do through our LinkedIn page. We are in the process of developing a dedicated page for Carib Equity because Carib Equity is a huge program that we have, and we are having a page dedicated to that so that people can have a specific page to have updates specific to Carib Equity. But these are kind of the upcoming opportunities and specific communication related to financing opportunities with IDB Lab.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. And you mentioned the blue economy. Uh, is IDB going to consider down the line the orange economy at some point?
We've had some projects, so these specific challenges and regional program that I mentioned, they usually come from IDB Lab. It's usually a joint effort. So it's always IDB Lab that mobilize funding from another partner and that want to focus on this specific um, sector, right? We've had siloed operation or initiatives that we supported for the orange economy. For example, we've had the program called the Creative Tech Lab. That was a very successful initiative that was financed actually by the public sector, but the IDB Lab supported. It happened in multiple countries. Haiti was one of the beneficiaries of this program, but there was a similar program that was based on the lessons learned from the Haiti initiative that was done in Trinidad for around Carnival during COVID, when all these creative could not benefit from the Carnival and stuff. We do have we are open to orange economy proposals, but that's probably gonna fall more under the demand-driven bucket. But for now, we don't have a specific challenge or fund dedicated to the orange economy.
Got it. That's understandable.
What's IDB Lab Plus? As of 2025, we entered our fourth round of replenishment, and that comes with IDB Lab Plus strategy, where the focus is we have a new business model in place now, and the focus is on scaling, impact, and financial sustainability. Thus, we allocate more funding now towards the reimbursable products, meaning if I go back a slide, meaning tier two products. So most of our financing, 75% are reimbursable products and 25% are for non-reimbursable products, which are the tier one we mentioned, and really focus on the ecosystem building activities, right? IDB Lab also have an extensive capacity to mobilize resources. So we leverage resource from other funders and other partners. Or historically, we've always have a 3x mobilization of every dollar IDB Lab invests, more than $3 we're able to mobilize from other partners. So that's also a big thing because we're able to leverage funding from other donors or any other financing partner. But why IDB Lab Plus is still relevant for Caribbean countries, again, because now the greater emphasis is on like I mentioned, on scaling and impact, and with focusing on bigger, more impactful project, we kind of improve the financial sustainability or the sustainability in general of these initiatives, and having a more sustainable impact always benefit the ecosystem in the long term. As I mentioned, the goal is for us to see our project scale after the initial investment that they receive from IDB Lab. So we want to be catalytic. We don't want to support initiative that will die out or that only depends on grant financing or other like financing. We want to see sustainable proposal. So we're a little more stricter in the type of proposal that we accept to finance, but we know they have a more lasting impact in the long term, right? Again, we have specific targets for the Caribbean, and we are conscious about we need to be purposeful with the financing that we're dedicating to the Caribbean. And that's why for the whole IDB lab, like there's a specific approval target of 17% of our project to come from the Caribbean, right? And there are some specific considerations as well for Caribbean countries. So how can we adapt the offering? Because of course we cannot compare or use a one size fit all model because the countries that we are involved in are so different from each other. Brazil and Colombia, for example, are completely different from a country like Haiti or Jamaica in terms of size, in terms of economy, in terms of so many different factors. So we are conscious about this and we are adapting our products for Caribbean countries, like I mentioned. So like I mentioned earlier, there is a launch, an active open call for proposal for loans specific for the Caribbean. Also for the direct equity, we are lowering some of the requirements. Like for example, the minimum for typical direct equity was 750,000, but for Caribbean country, we can go as low as 500,000. So we're trying to broaden kind of the eligibility for so that more beneficiaries can within the Caribbean can have access to those financing. For the non-reimbursable products, one of the big kind of I think barriers to entry was the counterpart financing because we have a 50-50 approach usually, but there are consideration on a case-by-case scenario that we can lower that 50% counterpart financing to something more realistic and more manageable by the beneficiary, right? So yes, what's in the agenda for 2025? In terms of pipeline, what we have, again, active right now, I mentioned we have the Caribbean equity projects that's 10 operation in the Caribbean for over $4 million. And also the Sorghum challenge that I mentioned, where this challenge have been closed and we selected 5 operation that are in development right now and should be launched sometimes in 2025 as a specific project. In terms of pre-pipeline, like I mentioned, we are developing a Caribbean venture capital fund. Our investment will be around 3 million, but the fund itself should be for like at least this is the link for the live call for loan proposal that I will share in the chat with you, Debbie, so that you can share with your network
Thank you.
later on. But it's also available in our page. It's also available in IDB Lab LinkedIn page and in all this. So as I mentioned, challenges before and regional facilities. So these are kind of the one that are relevant for Caribbean countries like Carib Equity, which is kind of our biggest regional facility. And yes, we already have kind of the first call for proposal like on the wraps, but there are multiple other opportunities specific for startups, other specific that will be developed for around Carib equity. And it's not only financing, there is a lot of knowledge. So we have what we call our series, our knowledge series that we have every quarter. We have spring, fall, winter, and summer series, and where we have speakers that come and talk about a specific topic that's relevant for entrepreneurs and founders in the Caribbean. The Blue Tech for Waste Challenge, again, have been ongoing since 2017. Every year or every 2 years, sometimes there is a new call for proposals. So again, stay connected for the next round of call for proposal for the Blue Tech. There is a new initiative as well called One Caribbean. This is outside of IDB Lab, but this is from IDB Group. Also Complete Caribbean. This is outside of IDB Lab, but also from the IDB Group. So, but they have their own dedicated pages, so you can look into it because there are also other opportunities that these programs are offering to Caribbean countries and the entrepreneurship ecosystems in the Caribbean. And I already mentioned the call for loan proposal like enough times. And so yeah, so I think this is it. I'm gonna stop here. Thanks for having me. Sorry for any technical issues we might have had.
I mean, it's
And
completely understandable. It's Haiti.
yeah,
Um, I did have a lot of questions for you, but I realized that Wi-Fi will not allow us to proceed. But I will maybe ask one or two questions related to DEI as well as AI. You because IDB prioritized DEI. Now, how do you guys initiate or innovate when it comes to DEI partnerships?
um, so DEI again, DEI is not forcibly kind of something like we don't have a specific initiative for DEI. We
Mm-hmm,
just measure impact on DEI across any project that we have, just like we measure impact on the environment, impact on the social impact on the poor and vulnerable, etc. So this is kind of our in our because we have an impact first approach, and every initiative that we support, we do build an extensive impact framework and results matrix where these elements are measured and where we want to see what will be the impact in gender and diversity. We want to see what will be the impact on the environment and climate, and what will be the we want to see what will be the impact on the most poor and vulnerable populations, so the social impact and all this. So these are kind of things we measure across anything, but we don't have a specific, like say, funding or dedication, a project dedicated to just that. This is for us just a measurement metric that we keep in all our projects.
that's good. That's really good because like you guys don't, I mean, yes, it's not necessarily designate a designated fund, but it's measured throughout your entire funding process, which is
Exactly. So,
great.
for example, if we are having a project, let me think, and we just supported a project on a health tech platform, right?
Mhm,
So we will measure, okay, how is this gonna impact, I don't know, the most poor and vulnerable like communities, how
mhm,
like where so are you gonna have specific activities to increase access for connectivity so that these communities can benefit from the health tech platform, right? Or we're gonna have a specific training program so that they can know how to use this platform because sometimes they have less literacy rate in these more poor and vulnerable communities.
mhm.
Same. So, what are you doing so that more women can benefit from these like so these are just measurement and that helps the founders or the project leaders to think through some specific activities that will help them have more impact on these specific cross-sectoral measurements.
That's true because sometimes they have tunnel vision where they don't see the broader picture. My next question related to AI. AI fail-safe, you mentioned that earlier. So I know some grant makers are not readily open to utilizing AI and as a tool, especially related to like, grant making or grant writing or whatnot. How open is IDB with individuals that use AI as a tool to write and help them write their proposals?
Like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we have a knowledge unit dedicated to AI. Okay, it's called FAILAC, and it's dedicated. So we support a lot of AI initiatives or initiatives that are not forcibly AI, but that want to integrate AI into a solution, right?
Mhm,
And we have a dedicated unit focusing on just that, where they can help with best practices. They can help with general guidelines and standards for the ethical use of AI and all this. So we really, as a lab, we really embrace new technologies, whether it's AI, blockchain, or all this. And like I said, we have a dedicated knowledge department for AI. We have a dedicated knowledge department for blockchain. So we don't run away from AI. I know that it can be like kind of like not controversial, but I know there's a lot of discussion with AI,
Mm-hmm.
and it frightens some people. But no, we supported a lot of AI initiative like over the years.
Nice. And my last one is, well, my two last ones is what role does IDB Lab envision for itself in shaping development landscape of Latin America as well as the Caribbean over the next decade? And how can people connect with you?
No, that's a tough question, I think. Like, let's start with our main date right now with IDB Lab Plus is for the next 3 to 5 years, so I can speak about that. Again, as an innovation lab, our role is to be catalytic, right? Is how can strategically use our offering to be catalytic for a wider and impact, right? We want to have skilled impact. We want to have lasting impact. We want to have sustainable impact, right?
Mhm.
And so it's really being strategic in the type of initiative that you support that can really help be like play that catalytic role. That because of course maybe some other like funding opportunities do not want to finance this specific sector or this specific initiative because it's too risky. But if someone jump in and play that catalytic role, it can later on have this scaling and lasting impact. So this is really how we see ourselves finding more synergies with other partners. So we really develop strong relationship, and we have a lot of co-investment, whether it's with the EU, the World Bank, a lot of different foundations, and we really like build even stronger connections and more synergies because we believe that we cannot lasting impact or scaling impact do not happen in silos. We really need to work together especially in Caribbean countries where the market is so small. So it's better to leverage each other's efforts and leverage each other's financing to have a bigger impact.
I love this. And your last question, which is where can people connect with you as we close off?
Yes. And there is the idblab.org website that you can access, where also from this website you'll see more details about our offering. You also will have dedicated pages for some of the key programs and challenges that we have. So, for example, for the Blue Tech Forest, there's a dedicated page for it. We have a page for silver economy. We have for LAC chain, I mentioned, for the fair LAC, all this. So, our page is the best. Also on social network, whether it's X or LinkedIn, you'll find IDB Lab. If it's for specific, you can also reach out to me anytime. So I will let Debbie share my contact information, and I can guide you through. If it's for a specific country, I can guide you through who's the specialist on the ground, like focusing on this country. But yes, I think that's the best way to connect.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me, even though you were struggling over there with your Wi-Fi.
I was.
We made it through, and I hope this is not our last conversation, but definitely a first. And please enjoy your day and be safe.
Thank you very much.
All right, then. Bye.
Bye.